Hey, everybody, welcome to USBG National Education Week, special edition of Whiskey Wednesday with your beautiful hosts, Mary Kelly out in DC, Chris Dempsey, that's me. I'm in Dallas, kicking it in Texas, and we got Mo over there on the West Coast hanging out, looking silly, with his pink shirt on, doing his thing.
I got a full name, Chris.
I'm sorry, Maurice, Big Mo, Big Papa Brooks, coming at you large from San Fran. Today we're going to be talking about training programs and cool digs like that with a very special guest of ours. If you've ever been to 7 Grand down in Austin or Las Perlas down in Austin, this is the AGM. Sam Valentine runs a really tight ship. And I want to tell you, his staff is some of the most trained up people that I have had the pleasure of working with. Sam, why don't you come on in? Let's get to rapping, baby.
Yo, what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
How's it going?
It's going good, man. Another day in paradise. Drinking a little whiskey today.
Yeah,
famous craft.
Right on. So, Sam, for those of you that, or for those of them that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the business, and why has your passion become, making sure people are well educated on the products you sell?
I started back in 2014. I was going to school out in Santa Fe, and I got started bartending, just kind of get myself through college. But the place I was working at was actually kind of a tasting room whiskey distillery sort of situation from a single malt producer, still making some good juice, called Santa Fe Spirits. I don't know if any of you guys have tried Cole Keegan single malt out there in Santa Fe, but it's really good mesquite smoked single malt. And that's how I got into whiskey. That's how I got started bartending. We were making the laws in New Mexico. Liquor licenses are really hard to come by. So we had a specialty license, a distiller's license, that allowed us to produce and sell only what we could make. So we were making like simple syrups and bitters and all sorts of fun stuff out of like neutral grain spirits that we were making at the distillery. And that's kind of how I got into the craft and into the kind of the passion of bartending, just kind of making things for people to enjoy. Moved into Austin 2016, worked at a pretty cool cocktail bar called Isla. It was a rum bar. And that kind of introduced me into like the whole concept of single spirit bars. The idea being, you've got some vodka, you've got some gin, maybe you've got a little tequila, but we focus on rum at Isla. And I worked there for about a year and took a little break. And then I saw this message on Poached about this new really cool concept that was opening up. It was when did we open? 2017, and it was whiskey. It was all going to be whiskey, and I was like really pumped up for that. So I got a job there, opening crew at 7 Grand, and then became AGM about 2 years ago. Started the training program there for 7 Grand, and it's been a blast ever since. Except this year. This year's been kind of a bummer.
You want to tell us just a little bit, just expand on what 7 Grand is and why it's so cool? What awesome things you're doing with whiskey?
Yeah, 7 Grand kind of started actually in downtown LA back in 2007. That was the first 7 Grand, modeled after this awesome Irish whiskey bar called the Stag's Head out in Dublin. So it's this beautiful sort of Victorian decor, leather chairs, leather seating, everything's like handmade and love is put into it. The back bar, right now, we in Austin have about 800 different marks of whiskey. And so it's kind of like got this grandiose library feel, but it's not pretentious at all. Like you've always got people in there, we're throwing down shots, we're drinking hard, and it's just it's a hard drinking whiskey bar. It's fun. It's a cool spot.
What are some gems that you have that you'd love to be pouring right now out of the collection?
Oh my God, we had just picked up some beautiful bottles before we got shut down in March, including a we had found like a 2015 Eagle Rare bottle, Eagle Rare 17. We had just picked up over at Las Perlas. We had just picked up our single village. We had a single village, delicious mezcal. We had so much. We were ramping up. We were just starting to get going before everything had to close down again in March.
So during this time, how have you adjusted? Like, how have you guys still found ways to win through this situation?
We just had to reevaluate when we closed down in March. We just kind of took the time for everyone to relax and hang out, and we were still having fun, like going through the books and kind of we're taking that moment to buckle down again and kind of like reassess our education and our training programs. And then we here in Texas at least got to reopen. When was that? It was probably like June, I think, or late April. And we were open for about 4 weeks before our governor here shut us down again. So that kind of blew a tire out on the whole program, and we've still been closed ever since. So we didn't really try and do the to-go cocktail things or anything like that. We just kind of now we're in rest and relaxation mode until we're absolutely sure that we can reopen and stay open, you know.
That's smart though, because I mean, I think that for most people that forget that like bar owners and most bar groups are still small business owners, you know. It's not like this is a huge, you know, corporation to where you guys just have buckets of money that you can just throw at a problem, especially when you got so much going on. So that being said, what are you kind of looking for? I want to say when the calendar, I guess, want to say turns on this and we're able to get back to being open. What are some of the things you're looking forward to doing?
Throw a party, man. Oh my, like we're going to have, can you imagine? This is going to be, once everything's open again, this is going to be the biggest party since Prohibition ended, man. It's going to be insane. I'm like, we're going to be all, like the whole world collectively is going to be breathing this beautiful sigh of relief, and we are going to get toasty. Responsibly. We're going to get toasty. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
I do hope it's like an official day just across the country where it's just like, you know, January 12th or something, like end of COVID shutdown day, and we just have a blast.
I was thinking that'd be kind of weird if we made it like an unofficial holiday, so to speak. I mean, I think especially amongst our community, because you know, for us, the world pretty much did end. You know, like, you know, when your livelihood is based in this industry, because we know there's no retirement plans, there's no 401ks, all this other stuff that you get some security. We don't have that, you know, where we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants night by night.
Yeah. So, you know, taking on that community kind of comment, Sam, do you think the fact that we've kind of been all on furlough and not really been able to do what we are most apt to doing, which is, you know, serving people and learning and keeping contact, have you found it challenging to keep like your staff or others up to date on like knowledge and classes, or are they willing to like come to you and be like, hey, can we once a week have a Zoom or something, and you're teaching them about something that's going on or a new product, or just deep diving into grains themselves?
You know, I'm lucky enough to have like just such a tight staff, and you know, they all love each other so much. So it's been really easy. We actually have a Zoom meeting scheduled once a week. We'll be on Zoom with them today at like 6. So that part's been easy. Like, you know, we still go out, we still hang out, we still love each other. But I mean, you lose a job for, you know, what's it been, 6 months or something like that. And eventually you do have to go find something else. Luckily for me, most everyone on my crew they're working at like liquor stores. So they're still like still gaining knowledge, still thinking about it. And, or they're working at other bars that are like hot, you know, restaurant bars that are good, that are high end, where they can continue their craft, continue their career. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, it's Most of our get-togethers are not like educational. We're not sitting around like
Yeah.
oh, what do you smell here? Is this cedar? What is going on? Is that I smell buttered pancake? No, it's mostly just like having fun and just trying to keep the connection between us strong. So when we do come back, we'll not be worse for the wear, you know.
That's amazing. As it is Education Week, and we are kind of chatting about that, when you are in building a team or something like that, what is most important? What does your training program look like, and what is most important in an employee before they're ready to be like live on the floor for you?
I mean, the most important thing, and we do have a very, I'd say, pretty rigorous training program. Like, we never just hire bartenders. We always hire, start as a bar back in our program, and then you work your way up. For us, like education, you need the foundations. We have a 100-question test that goes through all, all sections of whiskey in the whiskey world, from distillation to maturation to different regions, different rules. We need to make sure that when a guest walks in, you don't know what their education level is. And the last thing that you want is for someone to sit there silently and think the person behind the bar doesn't know what they're talking about. So, because that breaks trust, and you need to maintain that level of trust. I think that's the very foundational thing. So our training program starts like at the very basics, and luckily we have such a strong crew that's been with us since the beginning that we're able to like foster relationships and sort of nurture, like, here's your new bar back and you're going to be training with bar. So during the day, earlier in the shift, there's a lot of time for unofficial trainings where the bartender will just kind of like walk them through. It's my favorite part of the job, honestly. You get to kind of walk and see the bottles and smell the bottle and like look at the bottle, read the back of the bottle, place the bottle gently back. And then the bartender will share knowledge about what they know about that particular mark with the bar back. More officially, we do trainings at least once a month. Sometimes we'll have special people come in. And then weekly, we'll have Whiskey Society, where we'll have national brand ambassadors or distillers from all over the world, people of note in the alcohol industry that will come in and share what makes their product special with not only us, but also the community here in Austin. It's really cool.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about your background. So you said that you kind of like when you first got in the game, you were kind of working in a distillery. So do you think that kind of helped you as far as with some of your training, go about kind of structuring things, and as well too when it comes to like maybe your palate and how refined it is and being able to pick out flavors and stuff like that? Because you had mentioned like buttered pancake and things of that nature. Do you think that was something that kind of like helped you along the way?
Yeah, 100%. Working at a distillery, like to start my career working in it, like working in a tasting room in a distillery, was, looking back on that, I realized that was one of the best ways that I could possibly have started, because I got to see the whole process. I had a master distiller, that I got to ask every single nerdy question that I could possibly ask. So watching and leading tours through a distillery is really, it gives you an understanding of what you're tasting in the glass, right? When you know that the grain is coming from this region and that the mash tun is heated to this level, and this is a copper pot still, and this over here is stainless steel column still. Like, you can really, those nuances really become obvious when your eyes get to see the instruments and the processes that the liquid is going through. I've also since then had the opportunity through 7 Grand to visit, Kentucky, and I've gone to Scotland. I've gotten to see other distillers and talk to them about their processes and what they think each individual distiller thinks makes their product special, and how their process makes what they're selling special, which is also really, really cool.
Okay. So now you talked about stills. Is there any particular still that you that you find that makes, I don't know, maybe some of the best juice in your opinion, whether it's copper or steel, or what were some of your favorite stills to work with?
I mean, it's like I have a special sort of like traditional place in my heart for copper pot stills. Um, I just think that, you get this sort of like much more textured, oily, viscous feel to the copper. But that's not to say some of the best juices in the world, especially like right there in Kentucky, are working out of giant column stills. And they sell millions and millions of bottles for a reason, because that juice is good. That said, out here in Texas, I think probably the most obvious mark that a still has made on a juice that I've tasted is out in Balcones, or out in Waco, about the Balcones distillery. It's just got, these stills are absolutely huge, and they've got this this spiral that goes up for, it looks like almost 10, 15 feet. It's one of the weirdest stills I've ever seen. They've got 4 of them. And I always get this sort of, I wonder about Balcones, because no matter what I'm drinking, whether it's the single malt, or whether it's their 4-grain bourbon, or what have you, with their baby blue, just a blue corn, there's always this sort of weird, kind of almost dusty texture to it. It's hiding in the background, and I always wonder, like, that's got to be the still. If it's a different mash bill, it's got to be the still, right?
I mean, they could, like, within that spiral, like, kind of like cone thing, there could be, like, just like a dust mister, that there may be like actual dust residue.
Maybe, yeah, just giving it that proprietary flavor, right?
Yeah, it's nothing wrong. It's giving that terroir flavor.
Yeah,
It's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Waco terroir. That's what you're getting.
Just a little taste of Waco dust here.
Some of that WD.
Oh my gosh, man. So Sam, what in your opinion, what do you look for whenever you're like picking out your whiskey? Is taste is relative, right? There's whiskey for every person. Everything has its place. Do you go in and you're like, okay, well, this week I feel like we don't have enough of this flavor profile, so I'm gonna plug that hole with these whiskeys? Is that how you kind of approach that, or?
You mean for my personal collection or the collection at the bar? Because I got 2 different. It's a money game for me, man. Like, for my personal collection, which is what I've been kind of building up, over the past couple of months. I've always been a 2 sort of whiskey person. I got the whiskey that I'm gonna drink and drink hard, and I got the whiskey that I'm gonna like sit back and enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that's just what I'm gonna drink and drink hard is best bang for your buck. So anything under like $35, and I'll look for something that has some complexity to it that isn't watered down. So maybe not something that's 80 proof or like mostly water. I'll reach for maybe something more 86, or there's some good marks at 100, as you well know. But that's that, and that's a good question, actually. I don't know exactly what it is. I want something that isn't going to destroy my palate, so that it is gentle but still has this like depth of character to it. I don't want something that is just single and falls flat. It's got one profile and that's what it does, and then it disappears. Right now, for example, I'm drinking a little Famous Grouse. Love Famous Grouse. Not expensive at all, and it's not overly complex. It's not going to blow you out of the water, but it's got some beautiful nuance to it. It's very sippable. It's very easy drinking, and if you want to go exploring down those waters, there's a lot to find. On the other side of the thing, when I'm looking for something like that really takes me out of where I'm at and makes me focus on what I'm experiencing in the moment, that's something like spicy, complex. Maybe it's more on the higher end of proof. Maybe it's a little more barrel proof, or still strength. if I'm drinking mezcal, but something rich and thick and just goes a million different ways. You can sip it and then think about it, and then 5 minutes later sip it again, and it's totally different. And that's, you know, that's something special there that you don't want to forget about, you know.
Right. Are you pairing all of your whiskeys with your food and cigars, and or you just because me personally, I'm like, I'll drink with whatever is around me. There's no special occasion for me. I'm just like, oh, it's 2:30 in the morning. I think I'll have a nip.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a little live, you know, Facebook feed. Might as well have a little something.
That's right.
You know, I don't normally like pair things. I do think about like what I'll be experiencing with the juice. I don't normally drink whiskey with food. Whiskey is more of like a before food and then after food sort of thing for me. Like I'll drink like a couple of old fashions, you know, before the appetizers arrive, and then once the appetizers arrive, we'll switch to wine. But I do like a good cigar with whiskey. Last night, there was no special occasion, but I just wanted to treat myself. So I popped open a little Highland Park 18, which is one of my favorite scotches up there in Orkney. And a cigar shop just opened up a couple blocks down the street from me. So I went and visited them, grabbed one of my favorite cigars, Padron Maduro, and they just went hand in hand. They really just both I had an hour of just pure hedonistic joy. It was a great night last night. And they went perfectly together. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that.
That's very cool. You mentioned drinking old fashions. Are you a cocktail guy as well? Are there cocktails that you miss on the menus at 7 Grand or Las Perlas, or things you've been working like creatively with during this time to like that you're excited to work with on a menu?
That's a really awesome question, because I've been going through this through my career. When I started at the distillery at the tasting room, we had to make up all sorts of fun and creative cocktails because we weren't allowed to use vermouth. We weren't allowed to use like Aperol or anything that you could buy at a liquor store that my distillery couldn't make. We couldn't buy it because that was just the nature of the license that we had back then. So I started my career as this sort of craft, you know, pre-prohibition cocktail guy. And I loved it. And I thought that like for most of my career until I went into 7 Grand, I thought that was really what bartending was all about. Like it was pouring drinks and making good drinks. And then 7 Grand sort of like opened up this new world of thought for me where I realized like if I make a Manhattan with, you know, Old Forester rye, and then I make it with Rittenhouse, it's going to taste totally different. And that's the only thing I swap out is 2 different ryes, right? And that introduction to the possibility of taking classics and just adjusting the spirit that's going into it opened up a whole new world to me. And I realized like an old fashioned can be a lot of different things. And so can a Sazerac, so can a sour, you know, whiskey sour with egg white. And there is this whole world of classics that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cocktails that were made, you know, pre-1950 that could really, some of them could use a lot of improvement for sure. But how much fun could it be to just like sit there and try and make it good, right? So that's mostly what we've been doing at 7 Grand. We started when we first opened in 2017. We've tried making like takes on classics and doing cool sours and things like that. But then beginning of last year, actually, we sat down, the GM and I, and really just kind of thought, you know, what if we really dug deep into what makes, you know, what makes something good? And like, we don't make anything new. We don't reinvent the wheel or anything like that, but we just try and figure out what's the best bourbon to go in this old fashioned without breaking the bank, without being more than like, you know, $14. What's the best? We've got 800 whiskeys behind us. What's the best? What's the perfect Sazerac? What can we do? You know, you want a Thomas H. Handy Sazerac? We can do it. like we could do it right now. It'd be crazy. So that's kind of where that's the direction we started to take, and I think it was really good for us, because especially when I started bartending in the beginning, I would look at these recipes, and some of these, some of the greatest bartenders in the world are writing these books, and they write like 2 ounces of bourbon in their recipe, and it's like, well, what bourbon? Are we talking like rare breed here, or are we talking Evan Williams? Like what's happening? And how much does that affect the recipe? So much. So that I hope, that's where I'm at right now in my career. Hopefully, like maybe in like a year or 2 or 3, I'll go back to like making like weird concoctions and things like that. But right now, I'm really focused on what makes the best Sazerac, what makes the best Manhattan, what makes the best Robert Roy.
Well, I mean, isn't that the kind of the cool thing about, what we do in the industry that we're in, is we're constantly learning, and it's always like, the next page is always a new adventure, So what I wanted to ask you is, so as someone that goes through training programs and has kind of trained your staff out, what are some of the books that you have read, and or some of the ones that you might suggest for the ones that people at home to kind of like go through maybe some things that you've pulled from, or just that you think are great reads as far as books for the industry?
I mean, the first book that I started with that really sort of honestly changed my life was Jeffrey Morgenthaler's The Bar Book. Super simple. It's the whole book is organized by how you build a cocktail. So he starts talking with, I think it's either he starts talking with syrups or
I'm looking for it. I got it around here somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could run to my library right now, but I would hate to break the momentum. But yeah, Morgenthaler, man, he's kind of a hero of mine. Just what he's doing up in Portland, and honestly, he started kind of doing the whole how do I make classics good as well. Like I think that like every single new bartender that I've met who's just getting into the industry, I always tell them like, go pick up that book. Like that book will start you down so many different avenues and rabbit holes that it'll change the way you drink and change the way that you work behind the bar. Besides that, I thought like Death and Co.'s book is really good, and I thought that kind of changed the game too. The way that they shared their techniques and the way that they talk about training their bartenders. They kind of started the whole, besides Sasha Petrosky, they were really on the whole rigorous training program regime, figuring, every single bartender had to be the best. And it shows in that book. Some of it's funny to see. It's the same with distillers too, right? You got some of the best bartenders in the world, and they disagree with each other on what's the perfect shake technique. You'll read like Death and Co., and they'll talk about their 3-point shake, and then you got Morgenthaler like up here just kind of doing the wrist, and it still works. It still makes good drinks, and that's kind of the fun of the training. Next book that's required reading at $7,000. I like how I started with 2 books that actually aren't required reading at $7,000. The 2 required books at $7,000 are Imbibe and Tasting Whiskey. So if you really want to get deep into the nerdum of learning about whiskey, Tasting Whiskey it's like taking a class. It's like taking a full semester class. It starts you off with the grains and going into the mash and then going into the ferment. It walks you through step by step, and then kind of walks you through the olfactory sort of tasting and what sort of molecules you're experiencing when you go through that. And then he unfortunately concludes the book with some of the worst cocktail recipes I've ever seen. So my staff gets to skip that part. So if you want to see the saddest mint julep, pick up Tasting Whiskey. It's just a picture of just this like sad, leaky julep tin. It broke my heart at the end. It really did. And then Imbibe. I think like Imbibe is just that's the go-to book, man. If you want to really get like understand like the fraternité of being a bartender and the history of your craft and this career, then Imbibe really kind of walks you through that. Like being a bartender in 2020 is oddly very similar to being a bartender in 1870, 1830, which is really, really cool to think about. And how Imbibe does a really good job of like showing you how cocktails are kind of a deep part of American culture. So kind of the first export that America kind of sent out to the world was good mint juleps, not bad mint juleps.
Word. So I had the luxury of flipping on the TV yesterday, and I happened to see Bruce Lee take on Chuck Norris. And I mean, anyone that has ever seen that, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but that was an amazing. Any Bruce Lee movie is a great movie. So what I wanted to ask you is, what were some of your top kung fu flicks? I know you got to have at least like one or two that if they're on TV, you're watching them.
I just saw Enter the Dragon for the first time like a couple of weeks ago, and I was blown away. Like that is some of that is incredible. Enter the Dragon. Yeah.
Wow. VHS.
Yeah. I just saw. See, I when I was growing up, I watched what was that TV show with the guy from Kill Bill?
Oh, you're talking about with David Carradine.
Is it called, David? Is it called Kung Fu?
Yeah, Kung Fu. Yeah.
Up on that.
I realized I was watching that when I was like 4. It just imprinted. I don't even remember the TV show. I just like there's moments of it that are just deep inside of my conscious that I don't even recall. But Enter the Dragon, watching that for the first time, I realized like this is revolutionary. This changed the game. Like you can see how many like movies after watching Enter the Dragon like stole from Enter the Dragon. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Then you had the finger, I think it was like the Fingers of Death or something of that nature, to where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, like it's just like Bruce Lee's like one of those people that if you got beat up by Bruce Lee, I don't think anyone would feel bad. Game of Death. There it is. Thank you, Canyon. Like, I think if you got beat up by Bruce Lee, you would actually gain street cred, which doesn't really happen when you get beat up by most people. But
no, it would be an honor.
Bruce, yeah. Bruce broke both my legs. What, he broke both your legs? Then he hit you with the wall. Like, he hit me with that.
Slow motion.
Yeah, with the face tremble though. Like if someone does that to me in a dark alley, you just start running like, no, don't get me, Bruce, don't get me.
I run to Ip Man, have him tech me.
No.
What about Jackie Chan, man? How do you feel about Jackie Chan?
Bruce Lee would wear Jackie Chan out.
I feel like he could break every bone in Jackie Chan's body. He'd be like the Terminator, still like coming after him.
He's too busy smiling at the camera.
That's hilarious.
That'd be a great fight.
I mean, that really goes together. Actually, I think that's like one of the greatest pairings you've ever said, Maurice.
Thank you, Chris. You actually know my name. I appreciate that.
I just want to,
Christopher.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, man. Sam, do you so getting back, we'll say, if we were to jump back into the realms of real life tomorrow, what's the first place you're going to go check out? What's your favorite bar?
You mean in Austin?
No,
What's
just
that?
bar in the world. It's your favorite bar that you ever visited.
Oh man, that's hard. Wow.
People writing this down right now, they're gonna be like, "Ooh, that's where we're going."
Well, the thing is, so I have not been to New York City, which I think that's sort of the mecca of, I mean, that's kind of where the cocktail revolution started, right? So there's a whole list of bars that I would love to go see up in New York. Like I heard like Dead Rabbit is opening up soon. Death and Co is thinking about opening up again soon, which would be like obviously the best experience to go check those out. But dude, I gotta tell you that like the best experience I had was actually in Dublin at the Stag's Head, which is sort of the bar. I was just going as sort of like, oh, my bar is based after the Stag's Head, but like the Stag's Head was such a awesome community. This is a bar built, I think it was originally built in like 1854. They're not doing anything fancy. They're not making fancy cocktails or I didn't even dare to ask them for an old fashioned. They were just pouring Guinness and whiskey, but by 7 o'clock, the place is packed with Irishmen. There's a fiddler going on in the corner, and imagine a bar where there's like 100 strangers sitting there singing songs, cheersing each other, grabbing each other by the shirt and kissing each other on the cheeks. And like, you've just got barmen that are like the utmost professionals, just like pouring drinks, grabbing bottles, running around the place. It was the greatest bar experience I've ever had. And it was not fancy. It was community. It was people like being with each other and just getting toasted, just 3 sheets. And I'll never forget that. I would love to go back there right now. I don't even know if they're open. They might be.
I found that like all over Ireland that we went to, even tiny little places. I mean, there's an element of that that's just in their culture that's really beautiful.
Yeah, they've got a way of drinking, don't they? It's a different style. I mean, I know it's like cliche, like the Irish are drunks. No, the Irish aren't drunks. They know how to drink. There's a difference.
Yeah,
They
I
know
would
how
agree.
to drink. They have fun with it. What about you, Chris? Where would you go, man?
Trick Dog, I think. I haven't been there in a while, and I kind of miss that joint. It was fun. I went there probably about 6 months after they opened up, I think, maybe a little bit longer. And, I walked into that spot, and I was just in awe the whole time. If Maurice was working there, it probably would have been like up 2 notches. But, it was cool, man. I really dug it, and honestly, I love Las Perlas. It's one of my favorite. King B, another one of my jams down there. But those are, I just like good agave bars, but I also like really good cocktail bars because, like most of us, we go to a bar and we're like, I'll have a beer and a shot until you kind of figure out what's going on, right? And you don't want to go in. I've had the mistake of going in and being like, yeah, can I just grab like a Americano? And they go, yeah, do you want a tall or what coffee do you want? I'm like, wait, what? No.
They kind of look at you funny, like,
Yeah.
you're in the right place. Where you at, bud?
Yeah, for real. What about you, Mary?
I think, like you said, Sam, the Dead Rabbit's definitely on my list. New York's on my list for sure to get up to sooner rather than later. But also, I haven't been really to San Francisco at all, and Mo is out there, so I'm definitely planning a trip there. My girl, Aleka, just moved out there. She works with Hoteling, so I'm excited to get out and check things out there a little bit.
Nope, nobody asking you.
I expected Mo to say where he's going to take us.
Yeah, I guess for me, I am looking forward to, for one, it'd be lovely to get back to Puerto Rico. It'd be great to get back to the island, go see the homies at Factoria, and everyone else there. Then it's going to be great to get to New Orleans next month. I'll be going to see some family. So hopefully Aaron Rose, walk through the quarter as safely as possible. But honestly, I think anywhere where you guys are would actually be somewhere I'd like to be, because it'd be good to be in the same room and talk a whole lot of shit and share some drinks and learn how to drink like the Irish, So it's one of those things that hopefully when this is all said and done, we could pick a time and a place, and hopefully we could take Sam to Whittle Jane when he takes his first trip to New York. We can be your tour guides out there, Daddy.
That'd be so awesome. That'd be so cool. I can't believe you brought up Puerto Rico, because I'm trying to get out there in February and go see. I actually met some of the guys at La Factory up at Portland Cocktail Week it was 2 years ago, back in October. Those guys are a blast, man.
Yeah.
Holy, whoa.
Yeah, Carlos, Leslie.
Yeah.
All of the boys are insane.
Yeah.
Let me know, man. Let's do it. I mean, we could go in February. We could plan a trip.
Yeah, you trying to? Puerto Rico's beautiful in February, man. It starts to get cold out here in Texas, and then like Puerto Rico's, it's a hop, skip, and a jump, and it's nice.
Also, too, one of the things about the island is the people are just so nice, kind, and amazing, so loving, even though they're still dealing with after effects of the hurricane that went through years ago. And for those of us that don't know, that haven't been there, yeah, they are still dealing with the effects of the hurricane. There are still some people on the island that don't have power. There are still some people that are probably won't have power for the next couple of years. So it's real. So hopefully we can get back there and give back as best we can.
Some of the toughest, most loving people out there. It's crazy what they've endured and what they continue to endure. But they're loving, man. Yeah, some of the best hospitality I've ever experienced was in San Juan. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Sam, are you a camping person?
Yeah, I'm trying to be, honestly. I'm from Oregon originally, so I'm used to camping out in the thick Douglas fir woods. Being out here in Texas has been a little bit more. I look through pictures of campgrounds. I'm like, where are the trees?
Yeah,
what's going on here?
that does happen
Yeah,
sure.
but yeah, I'm actually going camping in Martha Monday. I'm leaving on Monday. I'm going to camp out in Martha.
I got kicked off Maurice's camping team, so I have to build my own.
What happened?
He's
Chris, show him a picture of the hot dogs that you made, bro.
I Han Soloed some hot dogs a couple years back. I was smoking out some meats, and then it was the end of all the smoke outs, and I was smoked out and drunk, and I put some more sausages on the grill, and they Han Soloed up, man. It's on my Instagram. It's ridiculous looking, man. Let me see if I can find it, but he kicked me off.
I don't know if you've ever seen a pink piece of meat turn silver. It's literally silver. He cooked these meat products till they turn solid silver. They look like.
How do you even do that?
It looked like the back of a coin that had got ran over 8 times. You would have thought it was like a smashed dime or something. No, it was hot dogs and onions.
It's so funny.
He can't come camping with us.
Chris, what the hell are you doing out there, man? What's?
Bro.
Oh.
Carbon all, baby.
Hey, Chris, why don't
you even do that?
Chris, why don't you say something so everyone at home can see that picture? Go ahead, pull the camera, show them, Chris.
Hold up, I gotta get it up again. Here, look at this.
Pure metal hot dogs.
It was ridiculous.
It looks like if someone was opening up a hot dog restaurant and that was how they branded their to-go packages. Is what that looks like.
Terrible. Oh, it was rough. I don't even know how that happened. I'm I didn't even know how to do that.
Hey, what's your favorite? What's your camping whiskey?
Well, here lately it's been Widow Jane, but I for budget wise, I'm gonna say some Evan Williams.
Yeah,
I'll get down on some Evan.
Yeah, I concur on the Widow Jane, but I'm drinking the rye for that right now. The apple and oak is perfectly fall. But on the other end of the spectrum, I'm old granddad all the way.
I think I'm
80 proof or the 100?
100.
Of course.
I think I might be following Mary definitely with the rye. And then, for me, you could give me some E&J. You know what I'm saying? We could get some E&J and some apple juice. We could get, it ain't technically whiskey, but let me see that Irk jerk. Be dancing by the campfire, doing remember the time. What's your camping whiskey?
Have you guys seen that Ardbeg just released this 5-year called the Wee Beastie? It's a 5-year-old Ardbeg, and it is smoky. It's rough. It's pretty intense. It hasn't had a chance to. It's not expensive at all. I think it's like $50 a bottle or something. I don't think it's limited edition. We'll see. It might not show up for everyone, but man, I took that out. Campfire, Ardbeg. Whew, rough. On the other side of things, though, one of my favorite camping trips, a friend brought La Venenosa Rosia, the red label. I can't remember which one the red. Chris, do you know which?
That's
La Sierra.
which one that is. It's so good.
But he like infused it with some. Not to say like it was probably really. I mean, I've had it without the straw, but it was infused with strawberries, and I was like, oof, delicious for the day, incredible.
I'm pulling this up.
I think it's La Sierra, or the Sierra Venenosa.
So Sam, right? So Sam, you
Yeah.
got a magic show, and I gotta know, right? You got a magic show, dog. Who is performing at your magic show? You get to pick two magicians. Who's pulling rabbits out of the hat and pulling marshmallows out of your nose?
Dude, I only need one magician. That's David Blaine, man. David Blaine. I think that David Blaine is actually a magician. Do you guys know David Blaine? He's like the.
I don't know him personally.
Oh my god, that was one of the first, when I was like 10. He released this like magic book, and I just became obsessed with magic. And that guy. I don't even know how he's like putting things through his hand and like holding his breath for 30 minutes and being, standing for 3 days. I don't know how, catching bullets in his mouth, card tricks. Like, I watched a video of him once. He walks up to a homeless man who's got like a cup, and he like fills the cup. He just like holds his hands and he just spins it around. And suddenly you just see all these coins are like falling out of the cup. I'm like, how do you even do that? How do you do that?
That is true. But
I mean,
have you ever tried to catch a bullet with your teeth?
No, that doesn't seem smart, man. Especially with how much I drink. Like, I don't know if the focus that it requires.
Definitely has to take some well, I tried with a dart one time, and fortunately I didn't do it, but it was an idea that I had.
What was the result?
The result was I didn't do it. I thought about it.
I was gonna say that probably ain't the best idea, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Chris's hot dogs.
A lot of stuff is better than that.
Better survivability, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we would actually be better off eating darts than them silver hot dogs.
Hey, if you need to fashion car parts out of food, I got you. I'll just cook it so long in a carbonite.
Yeah, when electricity can flow perfectly through it, you're good.
Done.
Oh man.
I like my steak carbonated.
Who's your magician, Maurice? Are you a Chris? What's that Chris Danger guy with
Nah,
Siegfried
man.
and Roy? What are you doing?
I'm a Merlin and David Copperfield kind of a guy. Merlin, just because historically he is just through the ranks has been amazing. And then David Copperfield, because he made the Empire State Building disappear, and he made elephants disappear, and he also his name is Copperfield.
It's a dope name, yeah.
It's a pretty dope name. You can almost get in trouble for it in some states, but
Wait, was David Copperfield real, or he's like a character in a book, right?
No, he's a real person.
Is he a real person?
He's also a character in a book. He's also a Dickens character.
Right, yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting. I would actually choose Nicolas Cage because he made his career disappear.
I thought you were going to say he switched faces.
Oh, I love that. I love that movie. The original JT and Nick Cage. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies to play at the bar, honestly, because people are like, are you guys,
Yeah.
is this Face Off? What the fuck?
Oh my goodness. Ridiculous.
Yeah, what other crazy questions you got?
Mary?
I don't have a crazy question. I guess I just wanted to ask one last thing about about $7,000. You all have a whiskey society, yeah, and you're still kind of doing things. You want to tell for folks at home who might be interested in what that has to offer or how they would join that?
Yeah, so Pedro Shanahan, the original spirit guide of 7 Grand. I love this guy. He's there's only one Pedro, man. But he started Whiskey Society back in, I want to say 2010. And I mean, back then he was a barback. He wanted to bring people together and start like, just have a place for people to come together and experience whiskey. So he sort of started that thing. And, you know, what with you buy enough whiskey and suddenly people want to hang out with you. So we had, he started with like a lot of master distillers were really interested in coming and just like sharing the product with the people. And it's not, what it is not is a sales pitch. I think a lot of people get sort of overwhelmed with people being like, and then in 1786, you know, so-and-so started it and founded it. It's like nobody, interesting, but come on. No, what Whiskey Society is we got the person who makes the whiskey, or someone who is close to the person who makes the whiskey, who's deeply involved in the process and with the company, and they just come and we drink. We go through. Usually it's at least 4 whiskeys. Sometimes it can get up to 8 before the wheels start to come off the train a little bit. And we just kind of go through each mark selectively together as a group, and just kind of smell and talk about what we're experiencing together, kind of create a community vocabulary for tasting and smelling things. And then we kind of talk about like what makes that particular mark special, like what makes that different than everything else in the market. But since the COVID train hit, we're doing it online. So you can actually you can find 7 Grand on Facebook. It's on, and we're doing it there. It's under the events page. You could also go to our Instagram. But it's kind of cool. You can sign up. It's like, and we'll actually send you the whiskeys in little 50 mLs. I think it's legal in California to do that. I'm not sure. We're doing it anyway. And then and then over Zoom, Pedro and whoever his guest is hanging out and just kind of going through sort of a similar experience with less chatter from the group, which is unfortunate, but it still works, and we're still doing it, and it's the best that we can do right now. This is good.
Sweet. So as we come close to the end of our hour here, Chris, is there any last thing you want to throw out there?
No, man. I just want to say, thank you for being so awesome at training your staff and keeping up with what really is important in our industry, which is knowledge and community, like it's been said so much throughout this interview. I personally have had I was able to come and do a class or 2 with y'all, and your staff is banging, man. I love them. They are always welcoming, and I want to say thank you to you, your staff, your crew, everybody out there, man. Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for saying that, man. I mean, we appreciate it when you show up with some mezcal and want to share it with us. So we're happy about that too. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Yeah.
With me.
Mary?
All good.
Sweet.
I'm excited to come visit. I'm excited.
Yeah, you need to come.
Please do.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I definitely got to get down there and come say what's up. But, Sam, I wanted to thank you for spending some time with us on this Whiskey Wednesday and taking some time out of your day. But for those of you at home, we're going to be wrapping up for this episode of Whiskey Wednesday on this USBG National Education Week. I am Maurice Brooks, hanging out in the lovely San Francisco, even though Chris Dempsey calls it San Fran, hanging out with the lovely in DC with Chris Dempsey and Mr. Valentine checking in from the lovely state of Texas. We are going to be signing out and seeing you guys same place, same channel next week, baby. Bye-bye, y'all.